We're here.
Hi, everybody. It's At Skating PJ. PJ Kwong here with Kelsey Bennett. Kelsey Bennett is the manager of events for Skate Ontario. And guess what? Oops. I hope that we are right side up. I think we might be, Kelsey. I'm sure that
We'll be told.
We'll be told. I know we're starting a couple of minutes early. Whoever just started to watch, if you could tell us if we're sideways, that would be great. We want to talk, first of all, about the pre-registration process for this year, for registering for competitions. What's included, what's not. But let's start first with the inspiration. What was the inspiration for these changes?
Coaches. There was a lot of conversations with coaches last year in terms of how to make the system better, how to make it work for them and their athletes and their skaters. So a lot of work and conversations with coaches. That's the inspiration.
And what sort of things did you take into consideration? You often talk about the pain areas. Welcome to my world. Anyway, what is a pain area? What were the pain areas that you identified that you were trying to overcome this year?
So number one was wait lists. So pain areas, to define them, are really, the areas that cause the most trouble for the skating community. So number one was the wait lists. Obviously, immediately when registration would open, parents and athletes would be put on wait lists right away. And that caused a lot of pain for everyone involved. And then the second one would have been a slow online user experience. And so as waitlist built and people knew that waitlist might happen for each competition, there were more and more people that would be waiting at their computer when registration opened. And so the more people on multiple devices, so this could be, at times there was 500 people on registration at the same time.
Ooh.
And that that stressed the server, and that made a slow online user experience, which had ripple effects for that. And then the third pain area was the time of day that we opened up registration, which is typically during the day. That did require parents to take time off work, and as they, it became pretty critical to be online at the opening minute of registration.
Yeah.
That was challenging for people with their normal lives and work and meetings and things like that. So those were the three top pain areas that this weekend everyone agreed were the top pain areas.
So I want to say, hi, Nancy Armstrong. You said hello to us. We're saying hello back. Denise, you're sending us a smiley face. Where we're going to start with all of this. So that's the background. The coaches and the, hi, Roxy. The coaches and the parents and the skaters all identified that it was a very difficult process last year. So you listened to the coaches and you started to do a bit of a think tank to figure out what the possibilities were. And before we get too far down the road, I want to bring up some questions that arrived to our Facebook page as soon as I find them. And while I'm looking for them, here we go. So thank you to everybody who commented on Facebook about today's Facebook Live. You will be able to see this archived on our YouTube channel as well. Feel free to get back to us with questions, comments, and whatever. Hi, Christine. Good afternoon to you. So from Nancy, Nancy has the same questions as everybody else on Facebook. Namely, will the changes be posted? Where are all the changes posted online on our website?
Yes, so we're just launching today a new page on our website underneath Compete. It'll be called Registration Information, and so you'll be able to go in there, and we'll have a step-by-step for coaches, so that they'll, it provides you with a step-by-step of how to pre-register into the process, as well as a new registration overview of everything that we've talked about. There'll also be an FAQ that we will continue to add to as time goes on, but we have, based on a lot of our, the think tank and the pilots that we've run, we've built, and even this past weekend, we've built out an FAQ that you can read and access, and again, as questions come through, and if there's questions that are repeated, we'll add to that FAQ, so that will be a live document that you can always see changes and hopefully answer your questions.
And you can always come to Skate Ontario with your questions. So what we've tried to do is to eliminate kind of what's been happening. So let's talk about, before I go to these questions, because these questions will be reflected in the information that you're about to give.
Exactly.
So what are the principles? Hi to everybody that has said hi. We're so happy to have you here on this Facebook Live. So Kelsey, walk us through the process. What is different from last year? How are you addressing all of these needs?
So, first off, what's going to happen is that we've designed a coach-only step. So we're calling it the coach pre-registration step. And obviously that's for coaches only. So they will be able to complete a registration within a 6-week window. So starting this Thursday, June 20th, and going until July 28th. And they go into this Uplifter site where they are defining to us the number of athletes they have in various category groupings.
Yep.
So for example, how many athletes do you have in Star 1? How many athletes do you have in Star 2 to 4? How many pre-Juve and Juve athletes? How many pairs teams do you have, for example? And then from there, as a coach, you will select and rank your top 5 competitions in the Super Series and the Star 1 to 4 series, as well as the Synchro Series. This doesn't apply to sectional series for this year. This is just Super Series, Star 1 to 4, and the Synchro Series. So if I'm a coach, I go in there, I tell you how many skaters I have in each of these different category groupings, and then there's drop-down menus where you you rank your top 5 competitions in each of those series, and then you submit it. As a coach, your job's done, and then Skate Ontario will receive information from all the coaches that complete that, look at it from a big picture point of view, and then we'll start to basically do competition selection for you based on those ranked competitions that you wanted for the season for your skaters.
And part of the rationale was in order to be able to determine how many of which categories you were trying to address in each of the competitions. So, in other words, if we find that it's in order to, there's only so many slots for a competition. So let's just say a competition has 1,000 slots.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that you use those 1,000 slots appropriately based on what the coaches wanted and what the athletes wanted to, where they wanted to participate. The other rationale for doing it this way is so that coaches, skaters, parents minimize the amount of travel that they have to do.
Exactly.
Because one of the big complaints that the coaches had was that they were going all over Hell's Half Acre in order to get their skaters into competition.
Right.
So you now have all the information from all the coaches. You've got this huge data pool of stuff. Stuff. That's really technical words. Yeah. Now what happens? Do the coaches get a confirmation of some kind?
Right. Yes. So in between September 6th and September 27th or so, don't quote me on the last day, but
last 3 weeks of September.
Last week of September.
There we go.
You will receive an email from Skate Ontario that bless you. Or,
Thank you.
You know,
it was actually a cough.
It was a cough. Yeah.
Gesundheit
There. Yeah. Anyway, so then September, you will receive an email from Skate Ontario that will identify the competitions that you're in, basically, as well as the number of athletes in each of those categories that have spots for those competitions. And again, as you said, the idea is that, and that what we heard from you as coaches is that you want all your athletes, all your skaters to get into the same competition. So we're
where
really
possible.
Where possible. So the principle is that you're going to get in a competition where all your athletes can go.
So the idea also is that the skaters are not named.
That's correct.
You've just named the categories. So let's just say Kelsey's my student and she is pre-juvenile. Let's just say, maybe she's juvenile more than that. But let's just say she's juvenile and she moves away and she goes to Quebec. But I have another skater who comes in at juvenile. I still have a juvenile spot for that competition.
That's correct.
So Skate Ontario is not concerned at this point with who the skaters are, but rather the number of skaters.
Exactly.
And is that so that you can build out the competition so that you know that in this competition over here that you have a huge number of juvenile skaters, so you have to have more juvenile spots available. Is that the reason why?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
And there was a question that was brought up in our Q&A, and that was, so let's just say I'm a coach and I fill out 5 competitions. Is there a chance I will get none of them?
No.
Tell me why.
The only way that would happen in our forecasting is that if every single coach in Ontario were to select the same 5 competitions, that would be the only.
That's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen because we have 17 Super Series, 16 Star 1 to 4, and we have increased our capacity for skaters at every one of those competitions. To avoid that, so that it's a really tiny 0.001% that would happen.
The other thing that we want to make mention of is that this past season, there were 6 fewer competitions than we had planned for, which meant that there were 6 fewer events where clubs had bid. So that was another reason why our capacity was diminished. Hey, there's George Han. Hey, George.
Hey, George.
After winning his volunteer coach of the year. Well, congratulations. We've got such talented coaches in this section. We're really lucky.
Super lucky.
Super lucky. Okay, so the step, we were initially calling it as an optional or voluntary step with coaches. You've now decided to make it basically mandatory, because if coaches were to try, or if coaches were to not do this step, it means that we will be right back at square one. So coaches, just know it's not going to take very much time. I've seen the template. I'm a former coach with like about 150 years of experience. So if I can do it, you can do it. And what this means is you then get to be in the driver's seat about where you're going to attend with your skaters. And what happens if a coach doesn't do this?
Well, so what happens really is that there's no guarantee that your athletes will get into the competitions that you want to get into, and that you're back at square one from last year. So we have this one phase of the registration that's called the last chance registration. So that would be the only option for your skaters to go through and try to register. We do have spots allocated for that last chance registration. However, again, those spots are limited, and it's first come, first served basis. And it's, whoever is as first come, first served, whoever is there when registration opens and gets those spots fastest will get them. So it's back to last year, which was really challenging for everyone. So we're really encouraging coaches to take advantage of this pre-registration, because it's a whole new world. It's really exciting, and I think we feel confident that it can solve a lot of the problems from last year.
You did some beta testing.
We did. Yes, we did.
With coaches.
Yeah, we went through a pilot with around 30 or so coaches with around 40 coaches that were involved in that, in different, involved in different levels, involved in synchro and different disciplines, and everyone was really, really happy with the new process, and that it didn't take very much time at all. I know that coaches said that completing this pre-registration online took no more than 5 minutes. I mean, there's some prep work obviously beforehand with determining what competitions you want to go to, and
who your skaters
are at what level. That took time, but once you've had mapped that out, the coaches said that the process of completing the process online was super fast and easy and great. So that was, it was really, really positive, and they're excited about the changes that we're implementing for this year.
So I'm a coach. You've now sent me an email in the last 3 weeks of September, and you've told me which competitions I'm going to be able to take my skaters to.
Yep.
What is the next step? So let's just say that now I've got a competition coming up next month.
Yes.
Let's say it's now October.
So it's October. So what happens is that we have, the coaches are going to be sent a link. So when Skate Ontario sends the coaches the list of the list of competitions that are confirmed that they're going to go to, we will also send an access link to the coaches. The coaches will be responsible to send that to the parents of the skaters that you want to go to that competition. We will be publishing a work back or a timeline of exactly when registration will open for each competition for what we're calling the registration for parents. So what will happen, the coach will send this link to the parents will know that registration is opening. The cool part about this new step is that the parents, once they're guaranteed and have that access code, have 7 days to go into Uplifter at their leisure at any time of day that works for them, and sign up. So 7 days to sign up, that spot is guaranteed for them. So that
sign up and pay.
So you're sign up, yes, thank you.
Yep.
Register, pay. So that, right off the bat will eliminate, there's not going to be a slow online user experience. You don't have to worry about wait lists. And you don't have to do it at work. You can do it at night, you can do it in the morning, whatever works for you. That spot is guaranteed to you in those 7 days.
Can you do it at lunchtime?
If you want to, you can. You can.
So that part is really kind of cool.
It's super cool.
And that link is competition specific.
That's correct.
So if you've got a young skater who's skating in several different competitions. That one link is just for that competition.
That's
now,
right.
We mentioned before, let's just say, and actually Jen McPhee is bringing up a great question.
Yep.
And that is, how does it allow for kids to change levels throughout the season, or are they stuck in a level for the balance? I can't see the rest of the question, but I'm assuming that's what it is. So the cool thing about this particular system is that it's flexible. The coaches know their skaters. So if I were doing this as a coach, I would know that, Kelsey is borderline this level and that level, and I might say that I've got a skater in both those levels just to sort of compensate for it. Or that, this competition here, I know for sure she's going to be in pre-novice, but let's just say down the road, I know for sure she's going to move up to novice.
Right.
So for these competitions, this competition here, I'm saying that there's X number of pre-novice kids, but over there it's sort of novice because it's tailor-made to each of the events. So so basically, no, you're not stuck. And again, if a skater has moved to a new coach, let's say in the fall, there is that last chance registration that is available to them, and that is a situation where spots have been held back in order to ensure that skaters whose lives have changed, that they have a chance as well.
Exactly. And I think that, just to reiterate to Jen, that again, we're not asking for the athletes' names, it's just the numbers. So that again is where there's flexibility for coaches to move those, move that number around.
Janet, I'm glad you're online because we were just going to address one of your questions on Facebook, the original Facebook post. So the supplementary categories, why they're not available in those 7 days is because as we were designing the system, or not me, as Kelsey was designing the system with her team, one of the things that they were looking to do was to be able to manage all of those slots that are available, competition slots that are available, because it's a finite number for a competition. Wanted to be able to manage giving those sort of first crack at the spots. Then if there was stuff, there were slots left over, that is what was going to be offered to supplementary categories. So that's why in those 7 days the supplementary categories can't be used. But it's a great question because you were wondering about parents registering twice. And that was one of the things we're going to do. And unfortunately, until we figure out what else to do, this is the starting point for this new system, and it's in order to be able to give everybody the best possibility of competing. So, great question.
Absolutely. And I think just to build on that a little bit, I know in the coach pilot, we talked about that specifically, and coaches were really happy. They wanted to know that for Star 1 to 4 specifically, or with any categories that had supplementary, that their preference was to go to a competition for their free skate and not for elements or not for showcase exclusively. And so if they could have confirmation that they're in a competition for their free skate, then they would be really, really happy with that. And if the only downside is that parents have to register twice, they're happy with that. So we are moving forward with that this year.
Jen McPhee asked another question about coaches tying up more spots than needed if they're forecasting. So maybe, marginally. Again, as a coach, you know who your skaters are and kind of at what level they're progressing. There are not a lot of kids who are necessarily borderline during a season, and if so, it's something that happens potentially later on in the season. So, and often, you're starting your work as a coach based on the premise that your skater is going to be juvenile all year, or your skater is going to be pre-novice all year and not necessarily moving up to something else until far later. So I don't think that that's really going to be an issue. Okay, Jason, great question. If a skater changes coaches mid-season, does the new coach get to carry over the old coach's estimate? Not really. Can you answer though?
Yeah, so the idea is that if a skater coaches mid-season, so I mean, the idea is that if you had submitted, you submitted your number of athletes. So let's say you have 10 athletes, and then one of them leaves and goes to another coach. That number is still under your name specifically as that coach. And so I think those are some one-off situations where we might have to talk to the two coaches. So just to make sure that that skater isn't lost in the registration mix, but that number would stay with you. Let's say, for example, if that's you initially put those numbers in.
So I hope that answers the question.
That answers it, yeah. Ultimately, we want to make sure that athlete has a spot. So we're going to work with the two coaches to make sure that they're not lost in the mix.
So we're trying to be as flexible as possible. Janet's wondering about people who are close to Toronto, but those who are driving want to be assured that our skaters, I can't see more, sorry, will be in more than one event. Well, you know what, Janet, the reality is every system has to address the needs of as many groups as possible. And the reality is that in Ontario, the vast majority of the Skate Ontario athletes are in sort of like the golden horseshoe or whatever it is that you want to call it. So it's not that other areas are being excluded from this, but it's just that the reality is that your question is specifically about supplementary categories, and the supplementary categories have to do with who has registered or who has not for the rest of the competition. So I don't see you as stuck at all, but definitely outlying areas have greater challenges in getting to competitions than other people who have children who are competing.
Right.
Megan Alyssa has a great question about again talking about why isn't there a geographical area restriction, and if you're one of the clubs able to bid on a star 1 to 4 competition, why those clubs could not have first dibs on registration since they are geographically closer to the competition. It's actually not about you registering for the competition, it's about your coaches registering for the competition. So if your coach, and this is coming from Northern Ontario, if your coach from Northern Ontario has expressed an interest in being in that competition, and a huge number of coaches from that area they have reserved spots for those skaters. So I don't think that what you're talking about necessarily comes into play here. The idea of Skate Ontario events is that it's for all of Skate Ontario. So you have to rely on your coaches to be identifying the events close to you as the ones in which they want to have their skaters competing. So I hope that helps you with that answer. And then, okay, supplementary stops we've dealt with. Brenda Wilson, I'm sorry that you see that it's unbelievably complicated. It actually isn't. The coaches say where they would like to have their skaters compete, top 5 choices, and after that we put everything in a huge Excel spreadsheet to figure out exactly where people are going to be competing. So okay,
happy to help you through it. Like we're available to. I mean, we have published, or we'll publish a step-by-step for you as a coach, and we're available by phone. So we want to make it as easy as possible for you, because that's what we need. We need this to be simple as possible, and we need as many people to do it so that our skaters can be in the competitions that they should be in.
I'd like you to answer Jen McPhee's question, which is about if you're trying to allow coaches to have the majority of their kids going to the same competition, will there be more Star 1 to 4 and 5 to Gold be combined in Super Series and Star 5 to Gold?
So I think what you're asking then is that are all those competitions, all those categories going to be clumped in together in one competition? So I know I talked about this in length at the Strength and Unity conference. So what's happening is, specifically for what we refer to as the GTA, is anywhere leaving from downtown Toronto that you can drive on a good traffic day 2 hours is sort of like the GTA area. We know that, as PJ said, that's a huge percentage of our membership that live in that area. And we know that capacity planning is really important for competitions, and so in that area specifically, we just because of the sheer numbers, we have to have Star 5 to Senior separated from Star 1 to 4. Otherwise, we can't accommodate all those athletes. If we try to have a competition that includes the category Star 1 all the way to Senior in the Toronto area, then we have to put caps to categories, and that's not what we want. So in the GTA specifically, there's lots of standalone Star 1 to 4 competitions, and then there's lots of Super Series competitions where it's Star 5 and above categories. However, outside of that area, like you'll see most of the Super Series will have Star 1 all the way up to Juve or up to Senior. So it really speaks to just the different geographical areas of where the populations and categories exist. in those areas.
Elisa Jacobson wants to know, do coaches have to pick 5 or can they choose 3?
Ooh, they can choose 3. Yep. There's an option on the drop down that says, I don't know what exactly we called it, but like, opt out or something. But yes, you definitely don't have to choose the 5.
Okay, that's great. Lynn Travis Thompson, I'm pleased to try a new way. Last year was difficult, having 40 star skaters. One coach live in northwestern Ontario, not many coaches, and I could not keep up to all competitions that skaters were signing up for.
Yep.
You know what? That's exactly right, and that's the reason why we did this. How will this work for synchro?
Yes, great question. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it is by team. So it would be your team manager, the same as how synchro registration works, will go in there, same timeline. So the team manager will go in, working with the coach to determine what competitions those teams want to go to. Same process online. They choose their top events. They put their team name in. They submit it. So that's how that works for synchro.
Well, okay. Mona Beaulieu-Levasseur would like more spots open for competition. Let the parents do the registration, then we could decide how many we want to do. We did more than 5 last year and did not mind the traveling. Well, that's a great point of view, and I'm sure one that is shared by some people, but the reality is the coach is the person who is in charge of your skater's progress. The coach is the one who is in charge of your skater's career, if you will. So I appreciate very much your willingness to travel to more than 5 events. And that's something that you can work out with your coach. But your coach is actually the one who is trying to figure out a plan for how your skater is going to progress. So, okay. And Tanya Dolores wants to know about synchro teams traveling.
We haven't had a chance to talk through that one. So the question is, if you have synchro teams that are traveling together in a bus, how would they sign up on registration? So yeah, we have to talk through that one. So
we're making progress.
We're making progress.
To tell you the truth, all of the questions are amazing because they are the questions that help us sort of define the process. Where you are now with this registration process is not where you started.
No.
But it's only by sort of like figuring out what works, what doesn't work. Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
It's all that sort of
and then,
stuff.
Yeah, and I think that what's really positive about synchro now is that we have increased capacity. We have more events, as well as there has been the format change down to 1 skate. So we feel really confident that if you and another team are traveling together and want to go to the same competitions, there's most likely space for you. It's a really different environment than last year for that. But again, we'll look into your question a little bit more. But just to feel confident that there's lots of space at these upcoming synchro competitions.
Bulk registration. So Jason Dietrich is wondering about in the future the coach could do the registrations for their skaters and alleviate the workload of many people registering 1 skater at a time and have the coaches do a bulk registration. Are you talking about having the parents do 1 registration at a time? Is that what we're talking about?
I think that he's saying that the coach could pay and register for everyone.
Maybe.
I mean, if that's something.
I don't know that coaches necessarily want to undertake the responsibility of using their credit card to pay for the skaters, especially if they have lots of skaters. So, and it just becomes something else that parents are obliged to do.
But interesting question for the future
absolutely.
To consider.
Okay. You know what, Jen? God bless you. Because honestly, to be a skating parent, actually to be the parent of any child who's competing in any kind of sport, your weekends are pretty much taken up by getting your kid to one
Super
competition
parent.
or another. So many different series for sure. But you know what? That's not different. It has always been the case that if you were in synchro, then synchro competitions were over here, and if you were doing something else, then it was over here. And so it's not been easy. So good for you. Okay. So Erica wants to know if this is based on first come first served when coaches sign up.
No, I want to make that super clear. Definitely not. So the registration window for coaches is June 20th to July 28th, and everyone is everyone not based on first come first served. Just is that how I say it? It's just doesn't matter who registers first or who registers last. We look at it the same.
It's a collection of data. Try to figure out where it is. So, Jason, I think we talked about that, about coaches doing the registration for their skaters. Kim, I'm with you. As a former coach, Kim is saying that as a coach, she doesn't want to do this. Jason, in terms of registering all the skaters, I also think that the parents need to sort of like buy into all of this because we're trying to do it for them and for the skaters as well. I'm just going to go back to my Facebook Skate Ontario page to see if there was I thought there was another question. Talk amongst yourselves.
Other questions? Oop, there's more here.
Oh, look at that. I think you have to go over here.
Oops, I
Whoa!
went too
Oh my
far.
goodness, there's a whole lot more.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Oops. Okay, so about synchro, this is from Andy. If you appoint one person per synchro club to take care of the team registrations, that's the team manager. That's
Yep.
what we're thinking of.
That's correct.
Denise. Okay.
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 Tanya,
And
whew, we're just getting caught up, guys. Sorry,
Okay,
those
so-
are fast.
it would allow the coaches to schedule their competitions weekends and access the levels being registered for. I would put it as an option going forward, not mandatory. So, Jason, this is what this whole pre-registration process is for coaches, is a way for coaches to be able to collect their data and figure out who among their skaters they want to have going at every different competition. Okay. Okay, Joyce, you know what? This whole process we've just been talking about. So your best bet, this will be archived on Facebook and on YouTube. But yes, we have taken great pains to try and alleviate all of the waitlisting and all of the pain areas from last year. So you will find that, in short, coaches are being asked to pre-register to identify their top 5 competitions and who, and not who by name, but who and how many in each category of their skaters they're hoping to have at a competition. So that's what's being changed for this year.
And there's going to be, again, more information posted on our website in terms of an overview and step-by-step. So, yeah, all that information will be there for you to read and get caught up on the new process.
So, interesting. Alicia, I don't know if you're a coach or not, but it sounds like you are. I don't think it's a really hard sell. The options are last year or trying something where we can figure out something that will work better. The other thing is we're saying one event at a bare minimum, but the chances of you getting more than one event are certainly much greater. Yes, you're right. You probably can't justify to a parent to take an 8-year-old to the GTA or Ottawa area to skate for 2 minutes. But that's kind of the nature of the sport. And we hope to be able to offer as many supplemental categories as possible, but understanding the needs of serving the skaters who are more interested in free skate first. Tim Kelly Cosby Flake, great question. If your skater has more than one coach, each coach is going to identify for themselves. So it will be the base coach in the terms of free skate coaches. If somebody is in a dance event, it'll be their dance coach. If somebody's on synchro, it'll be their synchro coach. So it could be that it's your child will appear on different people's lists, not named, but as a category.
Yep.
And that's because those coaches all have different ideas. Speak to your coach. You're welcome, Joyce.
Speak here. Yeah.
We're happy about this. Okay. Okay. You're welcome, Kim. We're trying.
Yeah.
So basically what we're talking about is we're trying to figure out ways that make it easier for parents. We're trying to make ways that are easier for coaches and for coaches to be able to understand where they're going, what they're doing, and who they're going with. That's really our big, that's the big push.
Totally.
Is there anything else that you want people to know? What can we remind them again that it's not about? Which series does it not include this year?
Sectional series. But it does include Star 1 to 4, Super Series, and the Synchro Series. So those are all, that is all what it's going to apply to this year.
And do we feel, the coaches who did the pilot project, what was their feedback?
Really, really positive. They were really happy with how easy it was to complete. They were happy about the early season planning, that they were able to really think about what competitions they want to go to and what athletes we're going to go to which competitions. They're really happy to hear that, by the end of September, they'll know exactly what competitions they are going to or not going to, and then they can plan their year that way, and that they can communicate that to their parents. I think, like over the weekend, we got questions from clubs that may be closed during the summertime, and again, I think they were excited that they could, that they could plan for the fall, so that when they come back in the fall, they would already know what competitions they're going to. They could base their numbers on, what they might have had last year as a safe bet for it. So I think that, we spoke to a lot of those clubs that might not be open right now, but they're still really excited that could be organized throughout the summer. So coaches said that. Also, what else did they really like? Yeah, it's just really user-friendly, and that obviously it just takes a lot of stress away from everybody involved. Last year, we all know that it was really challenging. You had to wait until registration opened to see if you could go there, and if you didn't get into that competition, then you had to go to plan B or D or F, whatever. So now it's really like plan A or plan B, which is really nice, and I think that that clarity and that security in what you're doing is going to, it's just really, fair and equitable for everyone
Great
involved.
question from Pamela Krolik. As a coach, when listing your top 5 choices, should you list them in priority you would like to attend with your skaters, or in order of the scheduled event?
Priority you'd like to attend, absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, hi Rachel. Not all coaches, especially the older ones, are particularly computer savvy. What about them?
So we're here to help them. I mean, it's super easy. Again, we've got the step-by-step online that will be posted. We're here at Skate Ontario to answer any of your questions. We're also going to host a in-person session at the sectional series number 1 in Ottawa at Minto Summer Skate. We'll be there to help out. At that point, I think that PJ and I want to do another Facebook Live.
For sure.
Once people are in there noodling around and they might have some further questions, it's absolutely. We design this in coaches that might not be super computer savvy in mind, so we've got lots of resources to help them out, because it'll just be awesome if we can help them through that.
And if they're anything like me, 10 years ago I had a skater help me get on the Twitter. So there's always young people around. That's the benefit of being in our sport. So I'm sure a young person can help them.
Yeah.
Okay. Janet Clark.
Awesome. Thank you.
We're hoping it's going to be a great year for us as well. Okay. Synchro Juna. A lot of work. Do you know what, Deanna? We're going to talk about this another time. We had a Facebook Live talking about One Skate. There are lots of other sports where you travel a very long distance for a very short period of time. Look at archery, look at fencing, look at swimming, all kinds of places. So it's just the reality. It's what has to happen in order for people to be able to find a spot to compete. Okay, are there opportunities later in the season to expand upon the list of competitions you originally submitted outside of the first 5?
So what happens is that you can always go into what we're calling the last chance registration. So there's spots that are allocated for each competition that will open up. So you can, if you want to do more than those 5 events that you selected, you can always register for those through last chance registration.
Okay, if your coaches put in your 2 local competitions, then the reality is, again, you're wondering about choices by geographical area. In truth, even when we were 4 sections, and I was a coach for 30 years, if you elected to drive to a competition that was outside of your section, you could. So the fact that we are all one section now, and there are competitions that are taking place where they're taking place, part of it has to do with the bid process, with clubs being willing to host a competition. But I think rather that if your coaches put their top 2 choices as your local competition, everything's going to get looked at. But if that's their top 2 competitions, then there's a better chance than not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think just to address your point, when PJ touched on it. When we designed the calendar, we started off by looking at the athletes that exist out there in Ontario and where are they from, and making sure that there's competitions that service those athletes across the province. I mean, yeah, like it's a massive province, but as best as possible, there is a competition that's within a reasonable drive from you, and you'll see that represented in the calendar and in the map that has all the competitions on there. And again, as PJ said, it is tied to who's available to host those competitions for sure. But and even you can look back on the bid application process, and there's an appendix with a map that shows the different areas to bid on competitions, and it covers the much of the area where people are skating.
Ronnie wants to know, how will the coaches get the information?
About the pre-registration process?
Yes.
Yeah, so we will be sending this week, so we're going to be sending an email with all the information, and it will be on our website, and we'll just push it out as much as possible. And we want you as well to just tell everyone that you know about this new pre-registration process. Tell them to come to our website. All the information will be there. I think what's important too is that we're launching this, so officially coaches can go in and start to pre-register on Thursday, June 20th. And this will be open for 6 weeks. So it'll close July 28th. So they've got lots of time to go in there, lots of time to ask us questions. Yeah. It'll be great.
Kay, I totally understand, your sentiment about getting the time off work. And it's difficult driving kids out of the sport. It's actually driving parents out of the sport because it's difficult to manage. I'm a single mother of 3 children, so I totally get it. I'm totally sympathetic. But the realities are there are choices that have to be made in guiding our children in their activities.
And yeah, I think that, we've, maybe you weren't at Strength and Unity, which is totally fine. But we, at Skate Ontario, we've done a lot of work with what we're calling like our capacity planning, which really means that we've increased the number of spots at each competition. So you'll see, and we've increased the number of competitions. So, like through the bid application process, specifically in really like the big hubs, like host clubs had to have ice for 3 days and had to have 2 ice pads so that we could increase the capacity. Like, it could be great that we have a competition every weekend, but if it's only 1 pad on 1 day, that's not helpful in certain areas. We need to make sure we can accommodate hundreds and hundreds of athletes. So we've looked at that, and we've designed the calendar to really help with capacity planning. So I know that what's some interesting data here is that at the Super Series, I want to make sure I say it the right way, we've increased the number of spots from last year by 4,000. So in the Super Series, approximately 4,000 spots, and for the Star 1 to 4 competitions, we've increased 2,000 spots for Star 1 to 4. So that's a massive increase in capacity, and for synchro as well, it's really it's a big increase. Lots of teams. We're not really concerned as we were last year about wait lists for synchro teams at competitions.
PJ Karen, good first name by the way. The coach is selecting top 5 of each Star 1 to 4 in Super Series.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Andrea gets skipped because she called it a waste of competition in Georgina, and that wasn't nice. If you'd like to reframe your question, I'd be happy to answer it. But we are into being respectful here. Okay. Okay. Well, you can be concerned about becoming one section or not. The needs of Toronto are not being put first. The needs of where the skaters exist are being put into context of everything else that we need to do in terms of planning. One section or not. The truth is, this was mandated. So we're here. It's what's happening. So Toronto's not being put first, I can assure you.
I think Mana's question was, so you're putting in just the number of athletes, not their names. Yep, just to clarify. Why can't? Okay. Anyways, she had a question about flights, and so we'll have more updates on that. Sometimes flights are up to 18, so more information to come on that one. Yeah.
So Valerie, I think that you were talking about being a coach, and what if kids come in September, they won't be on a coach's list. You're right, but that's why there's spots being held back for last chance registration. Okay, Chantel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, for Chantel, there are spots across the province that have increased that. That was the example for Toronto, but we did the same for all over the province. There's requirements for a certain number of pads and days that meet the needs of the number of athletes in those areas. So that is applying across the province.
Denise, thank you for recognizing that we are trying to have it make sense and to give skaters equal opportunity. Jen, the increase in entry fees, I don't have the information. Do you?
Well, I think I'm not exact. So last year, I mean, this has been, this has been the price that it's been for the past couple years. I think just to give some background that all of the former 4 sections had different prices for those categories that ranged. There's a big range, and so we had to we made a decision on those prices, and we've actually, people have been quite happy on that one. So there was, we had to make a standard price, and we did that, and it needs to be equitable for the host clubs too, and we think that they're really fair prices.
Perhaps what needs to be explained also is that the host clubs, they have a vested interest in these competitions being successful. That's a lot of work for them, and we recognize that's a ton of work.
Yep.
And again, thank you to all the volunteers, because it couldn't happen without you.
Yep.
And as I said, I was a single mom with 3 kids in 3 different sports, and understand how difficult it can be to volunteer. So I really appreciate also the fact that you, as watchers of this Facebook Live, have been extremely respectful in terms of your questions, and I think that all the questions have been terrific. We've got time for maybe 2 more questions if anybody has any, and if not, you can be sure to watch this on our Facebook page, and it will also be archived on our YouTube channel. We have a Skate Ontario YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe, and that's kind of where we're at. So if there's any more questions.
But yeah, just want you to spread the good word to coaches that we have a solution to, the registration challenges that we had last year, and that you've got, we really want coaches to get on board for this pre-registration, coach-only process. We think it's going to be really successful, and we're invested in making this better for everyone involved. And thank you to all of those who've been involved in the process leading up to this, and we're really excited for 2019-2020 registration.
Is there a way that people can get a hold of you for questions, or how do people address that?
Yes, absolutely. So you can reach me at the office. I actually don't know what the office phone number is, but it's on our website. I know that that's what it is. So you can reach me that way. Also,
Kelsey Bennett.
Kelsey Bennett is my name, Kelsey Bennett. And then my email as well is kbennett@skateontario.org. And you can also email the events team, so events@skateontario.org, for any questions. All that information and how to contact us will be on our website as well for this. So it'll be easy to get a hold of us, absolutely. And we're here. We want to answer all your questions. They're all good questions.
And thank you. Thank you all for participating. Sherry, if there's a coaching change through the season, you may not have been online earlier when we talked about it, but we're going to try to, if a skater is part of the numbers of Coach 1, then when they get to Coach 2, we're going to try and figure out a way to make sure that slot still stays attached to that skater.
Exactly.
Is that about right?
Yep, okay. Exactly. We want to, let everyone know that it's really important for the coaches to complete this first step, which is the pre-registration. It'll solve a lot of the problems from last year, so if we can get everyone on board to do it, it'll make everyone's lives
and parents
better.
Talk to your coaches. If you have a specific competition that you would like your child to be in, talk to your coach so your coach knows that in their planning that they may want to be able to consider that competition. So that will Kate, we're just going to experiment, that's all. We're going to see what we can do. Yes, Stephanie, it's going to be sent out to the coaches as part of an e-blast. The information is also going to be on the coaching page on the website, as well as you can rewatch this video for all the information. So thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day. Bye for now.
Take care.